Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So yesterday I finished my first pass across this piece, so we are ready to start the second one. So we're just under a third done. We're 31.25%. Yeah, because this pattern is 192 rows in height, so I do 60 rows for each pass, so it's not quite exactly a third, because a third would be 180. So I may do 70 in this pass if it fits nicely in my frame, or I might leave that extra 10 to 12 stitches for the final pass. We'll see once I get there. If I was thinking ahead, I probably should have done 70 stitches in my very first pass, because there would be less fabric at the top, because well, it would be at the top of the piece, so there would be, yeah, less extra, as opposed to when there's some that's already stitched. The further you go down the piece, of course, the more the fabric there is at the top. So, but we'll make it work. So I looked at the mock-up, and we're working on Anju's grandmother's face. It's funny because when I first looked at this pattern, I didn't really see that Angie's grandmother was in it. Or she was the lady from the potion shop, I think, in Ocarina of Time. In Majora's Mask, she's Angie's grandma. But yeah, I never really saw her because it's part of sort of the shadowy background and not a focal part of the piece, so I never really noticed it until I was, yeah, looking more closely. So, yeah, we have her grandma, and then we're going to do more of Anju's body. We got her face in the first pass across this piece. So, oops. Just about unthreaded my needle. There we go. Piece of my guinea pig's fur there. Yeah, there was someone asking in a group I was in, you know, how do you remove pet hair? And somebody said, oh, I leave it, you know, it's their contribution. Yeah, I have a pair of tweezers that I use because I find it's really hard to get a good enough grip with your fingers. The hairs are very short, and yeah. So I find the tweezers can get a more secure grip. So okay. 30, 41. Just trying to find the right place to put this envelope back into my tub here. Yeah, this piece of thread was on a bobbin for a long time, so you can see that's why it's got the kinks in it. Oh, pardon me. Oh, my loop was caught around my grime guard there. That won't work. So yeah, reestablishing my diagonal. And then doing another pass across. Some people will like to extend their diagonals all the way down sort of the length of the piece, but I find that means you got to move your frame more often. And also stitched areas are going to be thicker than unstitched areas, of course. And so sometimes that can sort of make it fit in the frame kind of wonky, depending. Like I've had people say with their scroll rods, they couldn't get it tight because, you know, one side was thicker from being stitched than the other. One recommendation was to add a towel and a thin towel to the unstitched areas to help bulk it up a bit so it would match more closely, so you could get it to stay more taut. Yeah, I really like Q-snaps for getting the fabric nice and tight. Oh my gosh. Yes, it is snowing again. Yuck. We went almost 2 weeks without snow, so I guess I shouldn't complain too much. And I'm not the one who has to shovel it, at least, so yeah. Occasionally I'll do, you know, sort of the walkways for the mail delivery person, but yeah, usually I don't have to do it. And we have a snowblower, so he handles that. Yeah, so the very last edge, right hand edge of this pattern went really fast because there was a ton of the same color. There was like 3 or 4 colors that made up most of that area. So yeah, that just zipped right by. So yeah, like I say, I like the look of the detail from Confetti, but I do like stitching big blocks because yeah, you can really see the progress you're making. All right, I'm just making sure I'm pin stitching this in towards the center. You don't want your ends protruding past the edge of your piece there. So we'll see if I hit a third before the end of the month or not. It'll be pretty close if we don't. So yeah, I like my big projects, but a smaller piece is nice sometimes. Gives you a quicker gratification of having a finished project. Part of the reason why I haven't picked any supersized pieces. The artsy large piece was the biggest, was big enough. And even I find the regular size for a lot of, say, Heaven and Earth designs, they're still pretty darn big. Yeah, although I do love seeing other people's supersized pieces. They're really impressive. But then I find often, too, you got to work on a higher count for those. Oops, meant to be parking lot there. There we go. Yeah, to have room to fit them on your wall. So, yeah, I don't like working anything higher than 18 count. I'm impressed by people who do, but I don't want to be using magnifiers in that. I don't think I would find it fun anymore. Especially since I often watch TV while I'm stitching and I want to be able to glance up at the screen. If you glance up with magnifiers on, that's not going to work so well. So yeah, I think we got 3 zeros already. So we'll see if we get any more in this pass across the piece or not. Yeah, they were stuff that was on Tattle's body mostly. Okay, 3740. Yeah, so a bit of more confetti here, more detail work here. Ooh, pardon me. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, it is another overcast today, no sky, but I have to say the trees do look pretty outlined in the snow. And it's not too cold, so there's that too. Yeah, and it's not calling for a ton of snow either, so. Oh man, they cleared some snow in a cul-de-sac a block over, and all those huge trucks going through the snow on our street basically churned it back up, so it was that really soft pack. It's like trying to drive through sand. Oh, when I first pulled out of my driveway, I thought maybe there was something wrong with my car. It was, you know, going so rough. But then once I got to the cleared part, it was like, oh no, it's just the road is lousy. Oh, and my husband got stuck yesterday coming home. Thankfully, he was able to free it, but yeah. I thought he would have less trouble than me because, you know, he drives a bigger truck, but no. He had a little bit of trouble, but then he parks on the street and I park in the driveway. So, but yeah, I had pulling into the driveway yesterday. Just kind of coaxing the car like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. Oh. Yeah, I got stuck coming down to the driveway one time, but it wasn't bad. My husband was able to get it unstuck. Oh. Yeah, and I got stuck at work once because they didn't clear the parking lot because it was just gravel, not paved, so it's pretty hard to clear that, right? And yeah, I got stuck a couple times and husband had to help dig me out so I could get home again. Oh, yeah, I actually wasn't happy with that parking lot. I got a flat tire twice because of like screws and bolts that had fallen on the ground and you couldn't see them. And then, yeah, ran over them and came out to a flat tire. I was like, darn it. I know how to change a tire, but I've never actually had to. I just called my husband and he came and did it for me. So I'm spoiled that way. I said I could, but yeah. I mean, it is pretty hard. I don't have as good strength to turn those lug nuts, so yeah. He doesn't mind. I said, oh, my hero. Okay. So I might hit 32% today. Not necessarily on camera, but I think I will. Because, yeah. Already almost a third of a way through this percentage point, and 1% is 480 stitches, and that's a good average for me on a day, at least when I have more time to stitch, which, like today, I do. So I was very excited. Yeah, I finally got my Soulful Mediterranean piece finished, mounted, hung up. My husband had a little bit of trouble saying, how am I going to get this across from the door? Because it was hard to get a ladder in there, but we managed. So yes, I thanked him profusely. But the next places where I will hang newer pieces are just going to be on regular walls, not around the door and stairs, so they'll be easier to install. Yeah, my hallway has a lot of blank space, so I could put 3 or 4 pieces down the hallway, so. Yeah, I suppose that is one benefit for stitching on higher counts. You end up with smaller pieces so you can fit more of them on the wall. Also takes less thread as well, but that's okay. Yeah, we'll see. I have a couple pieces I'm working on 18 count, so maybe I'll start using that more regularly. I don't know. But I don't see myself going any higher than 18 count at this point. Oops, I keep forgetting that I'm in the move mode and not the markup mode. Messing myself up. Okay, so I'm going to do this one because I can end off this thread now. Yeah, and I didn't bother leaving that threaded because it was too short. The needle wouldn't stay on anyway. I was a little less diagonal stitching towards that far edge because there were so many blocks of color that just went across several diagonals. So yeah, that often means that I'm stitching across several diagonals at once instead of breaking it up into diagonal slices. So, but I think we're gonna end up more diagonal here as more confetti heavy areas tends to. Oops, I keep doing that, my gosh. I tell you. Yeah, it tends to lend itself to that kind of stitching more. Okay, so I have 2 threads of this color parked. I'm guessing one of them is probably short. Okay, so that's a longer piece there. This lower one, yes, that's what I figured. It was going to be just long enough to do these 2 stitches here where it is parked. Now remember to switch to highlight mode. Yeah, if we get another bunch of snow, I wonder if they'll plow our street again or not. It kind of sucked one year because we did have quite a bit built up, but it had all been packed down and sort of become a layer of ice, and then they came and plowed it, and then the problem was then you ended up with a drop from your driveway down to the street because the driveway still had packed ice, several inches, yeah. And so my husband called the city and said, you know, can you guys bring a backhoe and kind of, and they said, oh, well, we don't do driveways. It's like, okay, but now that you guys have done that, we can't even get out of our driveway. And he must have not been the only person who complained because the next day on our street, yeah, they came with a backhoe and sort of evened it out so that you could actually get down from the driveway without a sudden drop, because that's not going to be good for your car. Yeah, I saw some pictures online where they had plowed streets in like Russia where they have tons of snow, even more than we do, and people had left their cars parked on the street, were stuck basically on islands like two feet high. Like, whoops, yeah, you're never getting down from there now. You know, because they had plowed around the parked cars. I've had that happen a couple of times here, but luckily, usually the amount of ice on the road is only, you know, 3 or 4 inches, so you could still get down. But yeah, with those ones that were left, like, you'd need a crane to get those down. Some kind of a ramp or something. Oh dear. Yeah, when they say don't park on the street, they mean it. I wonder if they get a ticket or if they consider it's enough of a punishment that now you can't use your car until the thaw comes. Oh dear. Yeah, here they don't generally give tickets. They just have signs up saying thank you for not parking. So. Okay, so when I do this one, I'm not going to park in the very first row up here of this color because, actually, let me just check the length of that. I believe that that's a long piece. Oh yeah, it's a long piece. So I'll be doing that row with the thread that is parked over to the right here. So instead, you can see this color kind of branches off. One goes this way and one goes this way. And so I'm going to do the leftmost branch here with this leftmost thread. So let's see how long this one is. Oh, that's a pretty long one. Let's see how long this one is. That's pretty long too. Okay, so I think I'm gonna end this one off and I'll use it later. Yeah. There's nowhere sort of to the right to park it. The next one's, you know, like 15 stitches away, and it already has a thread part there, so I will just... Oh man, speaking of cars being stuck up on things, when we went to visit family in a neighboring province last summer, and we saw somebody had turned into a parking lot, and I guess they were looking at the buildings and not where they were driving, and they hit an island in the center that had a great big decorative rock in the middle, and they actually got like stuck on the island. Like, oh man, that sucks. And they managed actually to back the car off of the island, and I was really surprised there wasn't leaking fluid, because yeah, it was not pretty. Their undercarriage was probably damaged, so oh yeah, sucks to be you. Yeah, the problem was that it was the turn into the parking lot was kind of around a, you know, a corner where you couldn't really see it. And yeah, I think they were looking at the buildings in the plaza to see where they wanted to go, and they weren't paying close enough attention to the road ahead. Oh dear. Wow, we almost hit a cinder block because they were doing some construction and they had blocked the area. They had one that was a big orange pylon and one was blocked with a cinder block, but because it was up so high, my husband almost didn't see it. It took me and our son yelling, no, stop. And he finally does it. He says, what? And I said, there's a cinder block right there, you know, in front of your front bumper. So yeah, he was a couple inches away from hitting it, so thankfully he listened. Oh no, because yeah, that would not have been good. Okay, loop went around my magnet there. That won't work. Okay, so there's a lone stitch kind of here by itself. Just gonna see, I think, yes, I have a lot of short little pieces, so I'm not going to do one out of order and do that stitch. I'm going to use a short little scrap piece for that one. So occasionally when it's like this, if I had only long pieces, I might do that one stitch, even though it is technically out of order. But sometimes I'd just rather do that than add another thread. But like I said, as I have scrap pieces that are just long enough for one stitch, that'll be perfect. That is exactly what I saved them for. Yeah, so we've got like a scroll here, like one of the signs in Clocktown, and then below it will be Angie's grandma. Okay. Yeah, and then I'm not sure if we're going to get down to Goron link, or if that'll be in the next pass. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to do this stitch here. And then I'm going to carry on and do this next row here, and then I'll park. And then unthread, because I'm done that first sort of triangle pretty much. I'll be going back to the top to do the next wedge. Yeah, it's kind of fun sometimes with these full coverage patterns. You don't even really know what you're stitching until you've finished it, and then you can actually see what it is on the design. Okay, so right, I said I was gonna unthread that. Just work through, see what I've got threaded there. Might as well, yeah, just, if these threads still have needles on them, might as well do one more stitch and part before I unthread and continue. Like I say, sometimes I go outside of the diagonal. That's just, yeah, if it happens to make sense. This one is still threaded, so it is a ways into the next diagonal, but yeah, actually I'm just going to do this one and then park. I'll do it later when I get there. So let's see if this one's threaded. Yes, it is. Okay, then often what I'll do is I'll just take all these threads that are going to be in the next diagonal and just tuck them away all neatly and out of my way till I get to them again. Right, so this was the one I said I'm going to use, the one that is parked over to the right, to do that first row, and then these will branch off. So the thread on the left will do the branch on the left, and the thread on the right will do the branch on the right, of course. Yeah, so knowing you guys would be eager to see the last piece all mounted and hung up, motivated me. Otherwise, it might have taken me months to get around to it. But yeah, I didn't do it in December because, like I said, December, right? Christmas, it's always busy time. So I put it off till January, but then I did get it done. Okay, so now, oops, I'm going to, yeah, like I said, work on this branch here with this thread. Do a few rows without closing anything in. Yeah, one of my friends says, "Oh, you actually finish your projects. That's unnatural." Mm. But yeah, my last project before the Soulful Mediterranean Tranquility was Oriental Triptych by Heaven and Earth Designs. And yeah, that one took me 4 or 5 months before I finally got around from having done the last stitch to actually having it washed and ironed and mounted and hanging on my wall. Yeah, one of my friends, hers are finished quite quickly because she actually has them framed. She doesn't mount them like I do. So yeah, once it's done, it's wash, iron, and take it to the framers. Yeah, her last one she did, it was a lady playing a sitar by RDC, and there's a lot of red in that pattern, and she picked a red mat for it, and oh, it was a perfect complement. It just made the whole thing pop. It was gorgeous. Yeah, that was the one. She was seeing my full coverage projects, and she got into cross stitching again. She had done it before, but like most of us, started out with, the dimensions kits that you can get from, the craft store or Walmart. And then, yeah, she saw me diving into the full coverage rabbit hole, and then that got her interested. I'm a good enabler that way. Okay, so this was the one I said, yeah, I was going to use one of my little leftover pieces for it. For this one here in the corner by itself. Yeah, I thought at first when I was stitching this part here that this might be Anju's ear, but her ear is here, and then this is, yeah, from the scroll. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell, like I said, when you're right up against it. Okay, oh, these are the ones I tucked away. It wound that a little too hard. It was hard to pull this thread out, So yeah, like I say, sometimes I work top down, sometimes I work sort of bottom up. Just depends on the colors and what is the easiest way to do it without closing anything in. Some people are very strict and like to go row by row, and that's, of course, totally fine too. You stitch your way. Don't let anyone tell you it's wrong. As long as, you're happy with it, that is what matters. Okay, so again, back to this color, and then, yeah, I'm going to head up to the top of the diagonal a bit more. Work my way down a bit before I get to these threads here that I parked earlier. Oh, whoops, silly me. It's supposed to be 4 stitches here, not just 3. Try that again. Yeah, it's funny. I'm stitching a secret project. It's a gift for someone, so I'm not going to show it on here yet until they have received it. But it's not a full coverage, and it has writing. And every time I do one of the letter T's, I always miss the very bottom row of it. I don't know why, but I've done that like twice now. I have one more T, I think, so I'll try and make sure I don't repeat that same silly mistake again. Okay, so up here to this thread here. Just unwind these so that I can easily pull this thread out. Wind the rest back up and out of my way. Okay, this is pretty short. I'm thinking it may not be worth the trouble of parking it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I am just going to... Well, I think what I will do actually is I'm going to park it right here because I'm going to do another thread that kind of goes over this way, and then that way that one can be done not out of order if I have a short little piece parked there. So you'll see what I mean as I fill this in, hopefully. You'll see what I mean. So do this row here, and then I'll park it. Yeah, I was just thinking my food deliveries today, I hope the FedEx guy doesn't get stuck with those kind of stumpy, you know, trucks. Yeah, it was funny. I saw a picture online. Somebody had a FedEx truck and a UPS truck got into an accident. It was like, oh yeah, there's the rivalry on the road. Fortunately, it was a very low speed, so nobody was hurt. Wouldn't have been so funny otherwise, right? Okay, so then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new thread. Oh, goodness. I only pulled on one strand, so it's very uneven. Let's just line that up again. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to do this row here. I'm going to work from the left back. That way I don't have to carry it as far to park it than if I did it from here and back, and then I would have to park it there. So that influences where I decide to begin my row, especially as I generally don't cross as I go. Okay, so I've done these three, and actually instead of parking, I can just carry on with this because I don't need to do anything else to avoid closing stuff in. So now I'll do these four here. I think I'm going to have to cut my hair soon. I'm noticing when I have it pulled back, my neck is starting to get a bit sore. It's funny how having it gathered in one place can make it feel heavier than when it's, you know, hanging loose, even though it's, you know, the same amount of hair, and the hair clip isn't that heavy. Yeah. When I was in high school, I had super long hair, and now I'm thinking, how the heck did I handle that much weight on my head? Yeah, I had hair down to almost my waist. Okay, so this is a long piece, so I'm going to want to carry it there. All right, so that means I'm going to have to fill in some stuff to the left and above of where that's parked. So yeah, I don't always stick strictly to the same diagonal. It's whatever makes sense with the colors. Okay, so I have a thread parked over here of this end symbol. Let's see how long it is. So well, it's a decent length. Okay, so that means, like I said, I'm going to go even further out of the diagonal and fill all these in so that I can use that thread. So, and then I'll go back and fill more down this diagonal here. So yeah, I kind of meander around sometimes instead of staying strictly within the lines. Yeah, kind of like how all this chaos becomes nice, neat stitching. Okay, park that one down there. Okay, 798. Believe. Drop my needle in my lap. Don't want to leave it there. Poke myself. Okay, I got, yeah, short piece saved. Perfect. Yeah, so quite a few threads parked here. There's a fair amount of detail work here. Keeps things interesting, although it does slow us down a wee bit. Quite a lot of strands here where it's just do one stitch and park, and then the next strand is the same. That's okay. Yeah, I figured that was going to be a short little bit, just enough to do 2 stitches though. Slowly working our way over. Okay, I filled all those in just so I could grab this thread and use it instead of adding another one. So sometimes I might decide to just add another one, and sometimes I do what I did, which was fill in all the stuff between it so that I could carry with the same thread and not close stuff in. So that one in the corner and that one in the corner. So yeah, I can kind of do all this end color in this section with one thread. So then I'm going to park this right here. And then when I'm doing that area, I'm probably going to do these 4 stitches, park it up there, and then do that stitch, park it down here. And that way I didn't have to add another one. So just going to unpark there. Okay, so here's another one. We'll see how long it is. We may also be able to carry it. Okay. Oh, what did I do here? I marked that as done and it's not done. Oh, you see what I did? Silly me. I stitched it in the wrong corner. Yeah. Did you notice? Fortunately, because I don't close stuff in, I noticed this right away. So I will fix it. And because I haven't stitched anything else around this thread yet, nothing else is piercing it, so I was able to pull it back out. No problem. Yeah, if I had stitched a bunch of other threads around it, they might have pierced this thread, and then that's not fun to remove. Okay, so let's get this right this time. It's on this side of the grid line, not the other side. Yeah, I make mistakes sometimes, so park that there. Okay, now we go to this symbol here. Oh yes, this is a long one, so that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to do, is carry on with this one rather than adding a new thread. All right, so then that one, come over here and do these 6 and then park it. Yeah, that is again why I take the trouble to grid, because if I hadn't, I would have had a hard time figuring out where I went wrong, or at least a harder time anyway. Well, even with all this confetti, we still got over 100 done, so that's always nice. Yeah, I was saying about my secret project, which I will show you eventually once the recipient has received it. But yeah, I was stitching that downstairs, and it's a black couch, and I was stitching with black thread, so that made it really fun trying to find my thread. Oh dear. Okay, so I can do this, and actually I will be able to squeeze one more stitch out of this, so I will do that. Oh yeah, that one I already parked and unthreaded, so I will not bother. So I'm going to head over here back to the left side and kind of work my way out again. So yeah, there's really no hard and fast rule of what I do next, just sort of what feels right. Okay. Park that there. Now, one of the reasons I'm going here is because when I do this color here, I want to sort of do this and wrap around and go back. And in order to do that, I've got to fill in all the stitches that are in this row to the left of it. So that is why I decided to go there. So I did have a logical reason, even if it might not be apparent to anyone else right away till I explain it. Okay. Okay, back to this color. this one is too short to park, so if it was a little bit longer, I would park down to the 2 stitches down below it in this other square, but it's not quite enough to reach them and do those 2 stitches, so I am just going to end this thread at this point. Hopefully I'll have a little short leftover piece once I get there to do those 2 stitches. All right, so I did all that just so, yeah, 'cause I could do all those at once and then park over to the left, because that second thread here is, yeah, super short, and I'm only going to get maybe 3 more stitches out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these 6, 4 for this row and 2 in the row below it and back. Yeah, this, yeah, it's enough for 1 more. So what I'm going to do is finish crossing these. And then I'm going to park that right there. Perfect. Okay, so then I'm going to fill in some more stuff. Okay, this is pretty much out of this diagonal, so I'm going to unthread it and leave it for the next section. Just going to do this bit that is out, just so I can show you what I did with those other short threads, how I'm juggling the multiple threads here. So I said I wasn't going to do this row because it was out of the diagonal, but I guess I changed my mind. So we'll do these 3. Park that there. Okay, then I'm going to do those. So there is a stitch to this color over here, but I'm going to leave it and use a shorter piece there because I don't feel like filling in all the stuff around it first and going over further and further to the right. So sometimes I do that, like I demonstrated earlier. Sometimes I just decide to leave it. So clear that. Instead, I'm going to start here and do these 3 and then park it further down this diagonal. So sometimes where I decide to add a thread and park just depends on my mood too. I didn't feel like getting more threads in play at this point. I want to instead finish filling in this bit of the diagonal before I head back up to the top and then carry on from there. So. One. And 2. And 3. And park. Because then, as I said, I have these 2 different ones from this color here. This short one is just going to do this 1 stitch here. Then I will carry on this area with the other thread that is parked. So clear as mud. Okay, so I'm going to then take all of these threads here, and I'm going to put them away, and I'm going to carry on down this same diagonal here. Right, I remember now I did not leave that one threaded because I knew it was going to be a while till I got back to it, so. Okay, then back to this color so that I can do all those around that edge. Might not have enough to park here. We'll see. Coming very close to the end of this thread here. So I may need to tie this off and start a new one later. Oh, I think there's going to be enough to do 2 more stitches of this. Yeah, so I like to get every last bit I can. So I'm going to park that there. I'm going to leave it threaded and see if we can keep it on the needle or not. It's not going to be long till I get to it. So actually what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to do this color that way. Yeah, like I said, it made sense to leave it threaded because I'll get right back to it. All right, there. Then back to this number 9. Yeah, do these 2 and then it will be done. Actually, by doing these 2, when I switch to the end symbol, I can do more before parking. I can do the one that is to the right of this stitch I'm finishing right here as well. I like doing that. If I have to stop and start less times, then I do that. Although, obviously, I don't mind stopping and starting quite a lot, as you can tell if you've watched me stitch. So, back to this color, so up along this edge and back down. this one here. And then I can park down there. All right, so I think I'm going to take a break here. I often say I got to get up and stretch now. I've been sitting for a while, so yeah, there we go. So as usual, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.